The sun beat down on the abandoned lot. A mother cat, sleek and gray, lay nestled amongst her kittens. Her eyes were half closed, but her ears were pricked, listening to the sounds of the city around them. A sudden, jarring noise made her jump. A bulldozer roared to life, its engine a monster's growl. It was close, too close. Panic flooded her senses. She had to protect her babies. She nudged them, urging them to run, her heart pounding like a drum. They were small, barely bigger than her paw, but they scrambled to their feet, their tiny legs unsteady. The bulldozer lurched forward, its massive blade a wall of metal. She hissed, her fur on end, but there was no time to fight, only to flee. One by one, she guided her kittens toward the safety of a broken fence, a haven amongst the weeds. She watched, her heart in her throat, as they disappeared through the gap. Then, with one last glance back at the approaching bulldozer, she bolted after them. But in the chaos and her terror, she didn't see one tiny kitten left behind. The man, a construction worker with calloused hands and a kind heart, looked at the tiny kitten. He gently placed the kitten away from the commotion and out of harm's way. He couldn't bear the thought of the little creature being crushed. He had a cat of his own, a ginger tomcat named Rusty, and knew how fragile kittens could be. He scanned the area for the mother cat, hoping she would return for her lost baby. He saw a flash of gray fur disappearing through a hole in the fence. He felt a wave of relief as he realized that she was okay. He couldn't get to her, but he hoped she would come back for her kitten. His workmates gathered around, marveling at the tiny creature. One of them, a burly man with a handlebar mustache, chuckled and patted the kitten's head with a finger. "Look at the little guy," he said, his voice surprisingly soft. "He's a fighter." The man smiled. He had a feeling this little kitten was going to be okay. The day wore on, and the sun began to set. The construction workers packed up their tools, their laughter and chatter filling the air. The man kept an eye on the kitten, but the mother cat didn't return. He knew he couldn't leave the little guy here alone. He sighed, scooping the kitten into his calloused hands. "Looks like you're coming home with me, little one," he murmured. The kitten purred, a soft rumble against his palm. It was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. The other kittens, huddled together for warmth, waited for their mother. They were scared, their bellies rumbling with hunger. They mewed, their tiny voices lost in the vastness of the lot. The gray mother cat didn't return. She had searched and searched, her heart breaking with every passing moment. But the fence seemed to stretch forever, an insurmountable barrier. Days turned nights, and the other three kittens grew weaker without his mother. They scavenged for scraps, their tiny bodies growing thinner. The world was a dangerous place, full of shadows and strange noises. They missed their mother's warmth, her comforting scent, the gentle lick of her tongue. They were alone, their tiny lives hanging by a thread. The tabby kitten, the smallest and weakest of the litter, struggled to keep up. He was always the last to reach a scrap of food, the last to find a dry spot to sleep. He missed his mother most of all. He remembered her soft fur, the way she would nuzzle him with her nose, the sweet milk that sustained him. He felt lost without her. One by one, his two siblings were disappeared. He didn't know where they went. He called out for them, but there was no reply. He was utterly alone, adrift in a sea of loneliness. He curled himself into a tight ball, his tiny body racked with sobs. He was so tired, so hungry, so very alone. He closed his eyes, wishing for his mother, for the warmth of her love. He wished for a miracle. Section 4. A Glimmer of Hope. The heart of Patricia was heavy with recent loss. She was wandering through the park. The world seemed painted in shades of gray, mirroring the emptiness she felt. Her beloved dog, a scruffy terrier named Buster, had passed away a few weeks ago, leaving a gaping hole in her life. She missed his playful antics, his wet nose nudges, the comforting weight of him by her side. The sun peeked through the clouds, casting long shadows across the path. She stopped, drawn by a soft mewing coming from the bushes. She parted the leaves cautiously, her heart skipping a beat. There, curled into a tiny ball of misery, was a kitten. He was so small, so thin, his eyes filled with a deep sadness that mirrored her own. She reached out a hand, her fingers trembling slightly. He flinched at her touch, then, as if realizing she meant no harm, he leaned into her palm. A wave of compassion washed over her, so strong it took her breath away. His tiny body was trembling, his fur matted and dirty. He was just a baby, alone and scared. She scooped him into her arms, cradling him close. He was light as a feather, his bones delicate beneath his skin. He let out a soft purr, a sound so full of hope and trust it brought tears to her eyes. "Oh, you poor little thing," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Don't worry, I've got you now." As Patricia looked into his big, trusting eyes, she knew she couldn't leave him behind. He needed her, and in a way she couldn't quite explain, she needed him too. Section 5. A New Beginning. The kitten, clean and fed, curled up on the woman's lap. He purred contentedly, his tiny body vibrating with happiness. The woman stroked his fur, her touch gentle and reassuring. He had been so close to giving up, but now, surrounded by warmth and love, he felt safe for the first time in what felt like a lifetime. The emptiness in her heart, the one left by her beloved dog Buster's death, seemed to lessen with every soft purr, every playful swat of his tiny paw. She named him Lucky, for it was lucky he was found, lucky to be alive. He filled her days with joy, his playful antics chasing away the shadows of grief. He followed her everywhere, his tiny tail held high with newfound confidence. He slept at the foot of her bed, his soft purrs a lullaby that chased away the nightmares. The home, once a place of sadness and loss, symbolized happiness. Lucky, once lost and alone, was now thriving, his spirit as bright as the sunbeams that streamed through the window. The woman smiled, her heart full. In saving Lucky, the woman realized she had saved herself too. He had shown her that love could bloom in the most unexpected places, that even in the darkest of times, there was always hope. The bond they shared, a testament to the enduring connection between humans and animals, was a reminder that compassion and kindness could heal even the deepest wounds. Together they were writing a new chapter, one filled with love, laughter, and the quiet joy of companionship.